Place for an event like this because we're in the home of Widow's Harvest. And what a special place to come, and what the appropriate place to be here today to celebrate each one of you. I have to tell you, in introducing Miriam, and this will take only a moment, but this dream began 13 months ago at a little coffee shop on Main Street, and it was a cold, rainy March afternoon, and Miriam was in Chattanooga to visit with us for a couple of days, and it was right after a National Religious Broadcasters meeting in Nashville. And I told her as she came to visit with us, I said, there's somebody you need to meet. And I'd already warned Andy Mendonza, I said, there's somebody you need to meet. And so he said, let's meet at my office. And his office is at Needlove's coffee shop down on Main Street. Now, various times of the day you can go and find him there because he meets with a lot of people, and it's a wonderful place to go, and they have great coffee. But Miriam and Andy spent an hour or so drinking coffee and visiting and getting acquainted. And out of that, God orchestrated this to happen 13 months later. So what you see today is a product of him orchestrating it, and as you look at the list of credits, so to speak, if there are credits to be given, on your little program, it's a wonderful group of people that have come together. Andy will be the first to tell you, I don't know how to organize anything, and I like to be in the back, and that's where he's sitting. And that's very typical of Andy. And so what you see today is a result of a lot of people coming together that, first of all, wanted to have a day with you, but also to express our love, our respect, and our admiration for widows. So we're excited. This is a day that's an answer to prayer, and we're so thrilled that you're here. And out of that little coffee shop meeting that day began the process of doing this. And last October, a small group began to come together to meet at the same location at Needlove's, a small committee that helped put this together. And one of those was recently widowed and had called Andy a number of times and said, how can I help? And eventually, this is how he plugged her in to help. And Elise Gilchrist is here. Elise, if you could just stand, recently widowed, but responsible for pulling all of us together and making all of this happen, and we're very grateful for that. As I introduce Miriam, rather than going down a list of things to share with you, she's going to tell you the story in only a manner in which she could. But I wrote down one word on a piece of paper, and I want to share the word with you because it very adequately describes Bob Neff, very adequately describes Miriam Neff. 11 and a half years ago, Jan and I were very privileged to be able to make a transition from working in the secular world to the world of ministry. And the world of ministry is a whole lot different than what we expected. But it's been a blessing, because we've had some experiences that we would have never had, and because of our experiences of working with people like Andy, who actually was on the front row, it's been an encouragement to us. And the word that describes Bob Neff is an encourager. After we'd been there 2 or 3 years, I realized that, first of all, he was my boss. I had to answer to him. But I realized very quickly we transitioned into a friendship which lasted until he entered heaven. And that friendship involved Miriam. So the one word that adequately describes him is encourager. He encouraged me so many times. And as we became friends with Miriam, we realized the same identical thing. The best word to describe Miriam is an encourager. She's here today to encourage you, but I promise you that when she's done this in other places, she has come away saying, I was so encouraged by what happened. But believe me, I promise you, she's a great encourager. It's a real privilege to have her in Chattanooga. It's a real privilege to have her at St. Elmo Avenue Baptist Church. And it's a real privilege for her to come and to share her heart with you today. Miriam?
Yes. You know what? I'm shocked to be here, okay? So can I just get over being shocked for a minute? First of all, I am here because I have joined a club or a sorority that none of us want to join. I am here because I'm a widow. And many of you are that. Do you mind, some of you, and if you don't want to, if you're not ready to raise your hand because you're a widow, that's okay. You'll get to where you say you're one of us. How many of you are in that club? Okay, a lot of you are. Now I have something to say to the rest of you. It is my prayer that you walk out of here today as encouraged and challenged as the rest of us. And I'm going to give you a little heads up hint. There are two words that are heavy on my heart today, and they are kingdom equity. And I'm not going to talk about that right at the beginning, but if you say, I've never heard that before, until a couple months ago, I'd never heard of that before either. But while this is for, I am a widow, and I'm going to talk to you from my life and the world through my eyes, that's who I am today. But I pray that every man in this room, and there are a bunch of you, I see you, and those of you who, many of you are daughters or friends who you've brought mom or you've brought your friend, I want you to be just as encouraged in the Lord, and I want you to be just as blessed as everyone else here. So having said that, I want to also say, I feel like in a way I have tiny roots here, and that's really not nice for a Chicago woman to say when she comes to the South. I realize I got nothing here, but my husband and I, back in the day, would get in a conversion van with all our little children, our 4 children, and we would come down here to meet with, and some of you I've said hello to meet with people that wanted radio in this area. And some of you in this room know who you are. You were involved in that. And we would come down here, and Bob would be this, and now I'm not exaggerating when I talk about my husband, but he was the most handsome, elegant, servant-hearted, best leader in the universe. And other than that, so we would come down here, and he would do his thing. And didn't he stand tall, Leighton? Didn't he? And while he stood tall, I would pray the children would not embarrass him. And I would be running around perspiring, and we would go flying down the Alpine slide, and we would go on the incline plane, and we would go in Ruby Falls, and we would chase all over the place, and then show up at the picnic clean with the matching shoes on. And when you got 4 little kids, you know how that is. It's like, so I feel that I have a connection here from way back when. And a couple of summers ago, I was back here as a new widow with 3 of my grandsons, connecting with Jan LaBeouf and with 6 grandchildren. What did we do? We went to Ruby Falls. We went on the incline plane, and we went to the battle. The history here is phenomenal. So I just want you to know, although I'm a Chicago person and I'm thankful to be here today, I have been here a little bit, and I know a little bit about this place. But what I want to talk to you about today is the way God works in really amazing circumstances. And I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you do not have to put your hands up, okay? You may if you want to, but you don't have to. Have you ever gone through a time in your life, a circumstance in your life, and someone said to you Romans 8:28, and you heard them say, now I'm going to read it in a version I typically use, but many of you may quote it from King James or whatever your versions you use, that's fine. But in the version I use, it says, and we know that in all things, all, why does it have all in there? But it says that, it says in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose.